Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, May 13th, 2022. The Harris Poll on Taxation, Frustration and Distrust. Unlike property taxes and sales taxes, which are assessed by the government, the federal income tax is calculated by American taxpayers. That's why some people claim that we have a voluntary compliance system. Now, according to information from the IRS data book, during fiscal year 2020, the IRS collected close to $3.5 trillion. It processed more than 240 million tax returns and other forms, issued more than $736 billion in tax refunds, including $268 billion in economic impact payments. In fiscal year 2020, 59.5 million taxpayers received assistance by calling or visiting an IRS office, and IRS.gov received nearly 1.6 billion visits, and taxpayers downloaded more than 437 million files. The Harris Poll recently conducted a nationally representative survey of U.S. adults to gauge sentiment about taxation. InternetCloning.com reviewed that poll and related observations from Will Johnson, the CEO of the Harris Poll, and they made these observations. 57% of American adults believe that they are taxed at unfairly high rates. This spans every cohort: age, gender, income, education, and race ethnicity. 78% of men aged 45 to 54 say they're overtaxed. Those with a household income of $75,000 to $99,900 a year, and that's 71% of us, and college graduates, 57%, are also more likely to feel overtaxed. Nearly 3/4 of U.S. adults disagree with how their tax dollars are being spent. Half of American adults say businesses are more likely to cheat on their tax returns, and nearly 6 in 10 also say that high-income individuals are more likely to commit fraud than low- and middle-income individuals. Now, the reality, according to the Internal Revenue Service, is that 3/4 of tax dodgers are individuals, mostly middle income. The rest are businesses. Almost 2/3 of American adults say that intentionally misrepresenting income is tax evasion. But a slim majority, 52%, say there's no difference between underreporting income and using legal loopholes to mitigate debt. And almost half of them, 48%, think that intentionally understating your income isn't tax evasion. Well, it really is. And finally, most millennials, who are currently 26 to 41 years old, say it's not a crime to misrepresent personal finances in order to lower your tax bill. In conclusion, St. Thomas Aquinas believed that a law should be an ordinance of reason for the common good, made by him who has care of the community and promulgated. It should be reasonable or based in reason and not merely in the will of the legislator. It's promulgated so the law can be known. The Internal Revenue Code already consists of a vast number of pages, and it gets bigger every year. Now let's compare it to what St. Thomas Aquinas says that a law should be. Now, before we start our analysis, we should look at how politicians define words. We all remember President Clinton's famous testimony before the grand jury. It depends on what the meaning of the word is. If is means is and never has been, that it's not, then that's one thing. If it means there is none, that was a completely true statement. Now, if someone had asked me on that day, are you having any kind of sexual relations with Miss Lewinsky, that is, asked me a question in the present tense, I would have said no, and it would have been completely true. The ruling class and their minions in D.C. are experts at twisting definitions for their own benefit. They tell us that they totally agree with St. Thomas Aquinas. And then they explain that for the common good means anything that benefits them, and that we simple people should just accept that and do as we're told. As to a law that can be known, not even the highest priced tax professionals will say that they fully understand the Internal Revenue Code. Now, they may claim to have a good understanding of a part of it, but one of the reasons they're paid so much is that even their limited understanding far exceeds what the average person understands about the tax code. We mere mortals have no idea if we're complying with our obligations under the Internal Revenue Code, and most of us can't afford to hire high-priced tax professionals. We often feel like the cork floating on the ocean. We have no control over how the IRS may rule about one of our income tax returns. However, we know that in a dispute with the IRS, it usually costs less to just pay what the IRS is demanding rather than fighting to prove our cause. Even if we are right, and we often are, it still costs more to prove that we're right than just to pay the incorrect assessment. If we complain about the system, the ruling class and their minions in D.C. dismiss those complaints by claiming that we're not smart enough to understand that the Internal Revenue Code really is for our benefit, and that, again, we should just accept their word on what's best for us. Now, let's compare the FAIRtax to the current income payroll tax system. With the FAIRtax, there are no complicated tax forms to prepare under penalty of perjury, and the FAIRtax is simple to understand. It's included in the retail purchases of new goods and services. You pay the tax when you make a retail purchase, and that's all there is to it. The attitudes expressed in the Harris poll show the rapidly increasing resistance to the income payroll tax system. Now, all of us know this because we see evidence of income tax evasion all around us. The fact that the IRS has acknowledged that the annual amount is over $1 trillion a year is very concerning to the ruling class, yet they persist in propping up a failed system because of the benefits that they can extract from it. Now, many of our fellow Americans agree with Robert Heinlein's statement, and their actions and opinions send a frightening message to the ruling class. Heinlein said, "I'm free, no matter what rules surround me. If I find them tolerable, I tolerate them. If I find them too obnoxious, I break them. I am free because I know that I alone am morally responsible for everything I do." The income payroll tax system is broken and no longer working. We can't repair it, but we can replace it with the FAIRtax. All Americans must join us before it's too late and the wonderful country we love is further harmed. So join us and take back control of our country. Not with bullets, but with the elimination of one of the biggest threats to our liberty and economic prosperity, the income payroll tax. We should all remember Edmund Burke's warning that applies to our efforts to take back control. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. And we should also remember this quote from George Orwell's 1984, which, if we do nothing, may foretell your and your children's future. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. So what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives and attend Zoom town hall meetings demanding that if they really want to allow Americans to take back control, the first step is to eliminate the income payroll tax system and enact the FAIRtax. Take back control. Help us pass the FAIRtax. The IRS will be gone and we'll pay our taxes when we make purchases. We, not the ruling class and their minions in D.C., will decide how much federal tax we pay, and we'll know how much tax we're paying because taxes will no longer be hidden from us. They'll be clearly shown on every retail receipt. If you have friends who don't know about the FAIRtax, send them to FAIRtax.org. Have them watch the whiteboards under how it works, and if they agree, ask them to please join us. Then, contact your members of Congress and the President and demand that Congress pass the FAIRtax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.